So yes, this is our new world of technology. We have to have a lot of patience. Well, I'll go ahead and get started with my remarks, but I just want to say good morning and welcome to everybody. I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm so grateful for all of you, not only for being here at our teacher kickoff, but for agreeing to stick with us for virtual learning this fall. It's going to be challenging. But we're all in this together, and I know we can do it, and I know that our students are looking forward to being with us again this fall, so thank you. I appreciate your persistence and your patience and your grace. I know this is going to be interesting, and we're going to learn, so buckle in and hang on. We're going to get through a great session today. So I'm just going to quickly go over the agenda. I have a few opening remarks, and then we have some of our volunteers who participated in our June online pilot session, and so they're going to share their insight with us from their experience back in June. I'm very excited that Rosa Guzman from NCFL, the National Center for Families Learning, is going to be with us to talk about building community in the online classroom. We'll have a little break, and then Ashley Hollum is going to talk a little bit more about the nuts and bolts side of the technology and mastering the digital classroom. And then finally, we'll have a breakout session led by our adult program managers. I also want to mention that we are in a webinar format today. And so that means that if you have any questions, you'll need to use the chat feature. We'll monitor the chat box throughout, and as time allows, we'll respond. If we're not able to follow up during the presentation, we'll follow up afterwards. Also, and this is really one of the advantages of online learning, our session is being recorded, and so if there's anything that you want to go back and revisit, you'll be able to come back and watch all or parts of this session today, or whenever you feel like it. So I want to mention who our adult program managers are, and make sure that you know who you report to as a volunteer. For the most part, we are continuing to keep our volunteers and our students assigned to their home campus, the same home campus that you were assigned to last year. If you are new or you're not sure which campus you're assigned to, you can reach out to Latrice Peoples, but just to make sure, if you're at Vickery Meadow, Latanya Coleman Hill is your adult program manager. At Elm East Dallas, it's Jody Cargill, and at West Dallas, it's Laura Montalvo. And I also want to recognize the rest of our adult program support staff. Ashley Hollum is our Outcomes and Evaluation Director, and Ashley is responsible for keeping all of our data and technology running efficiently, and she has been working around the clock to make sure we got our Zoom meetings set up and computers ready. So I want to say thank you, Ashley, for that. And then Letty Bustamante is our Student Services Manager, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but as you can imagine, the need for outside resources, community resources, has been a major concern throughout this pandemic. And so Letty has just been amazing to be a resource for our students and families throughout this time. And then finally, Latrice Peoples. Many of you may not have met Latrice before, but Latrice joined us in February part-time, and then a couple weeks ago joined us full-time as our talent and resource manager. And if we go to the next slide, please. I want to also mention that Latrice is still accepting new volunteers. We're actually going to have another orientation tomorrow, 2 scheduled for tomorrow, and we'll continue to schedule them as long as they're needed. But if you know anybody, or if you have any groups where you would like to let them know about the volunteer opportunities, please get in touch with Latrice and you can contact her. It's very easy at volunteer@literacyachieves.org. And also, as I mentioned earlier, if you're not sure who you report to, who your adult program manager is, you can reach out to Latrice. And I want to make sure, I want to pause for just a second. I see there's a lot of comments, but I'm hopeful that y'all can hear me and see everything as well. So Ashley, can you just confirm that everything's okay?
Yes, everything is good.
Thank you so much.
During a webinar, you should not see yourself unless you're a panelist. So we do have some panelists who should be able to see yourself, but hopefully you can see the screen, the slide.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go on to the next slide. And we've got a few organizational accomplishments from last year. And I just want to say none of this could have happened without the dedication of nearly 300 volunteers who contributed about 14,000 hours of in-kind teaching. So thank you, everybody, for all of your contributions to make this work happen. We couldn't do it without all of you. And, you know, I say this a lot, but volunteers, y'all are the front line of our operation. And so, you know, making sure that you have a good experience and that our students have a good experience is a real priority for us. So yeah, as you're getting into this semester, please don't hesitate to reach out and seek help from your adult program manager if you have any questions going on. So we'll go to the next slide. This gives just more of a breakdown by campus. So we had a total of 954 adult students enrolled, and we had a total of 293 children enrolled. And both groups, adults and children, had an 85% retention rate as far as staying in the program at least 12 or 24 hours, which is really phenomenal. And I know that the students persist because of the quality of the classroom and the instruction that you're providing, because learning English is not easy, and there's a lot of reasons to want to just give up and say, this is too hard, I can't do it. But that persistence is just so important. Our students range in age from 18 to 81, and our average age is 39. And then education attainment, actually more than half of our students have less than 12 years of formal schooling. And, you know, while the students may lack formal schooling, what they all have is tremendous life experience. And so, you know, I just want you to be mindful of that and remember that in your classroom, that, you know, even if people don't have all of the formal schooling, they do have tremendous life experience to build upon, and you can build from that in your teaching. So the next slide, this is always one of my favorite slides. So we had 52 countries represented last year, a little United Nations, and the #1 country of origin is Mexico, followed by the #2 country of origin is Burma or Myanmar. And so diversity, equity, and inclusion have been really big topics in recent months. And I'm going to actually have you go to the next slide. And I guess you're trying to adjust the focus. It's very blurry. There, that's better. So some of you, I know many of you have been with us for a long time, but some of you may remember 2 years ago at our teacher training, and I shared that our staff had been involved in some very extensive training around DEI. And at the time, I think a lot of people, a lot of us, even our staff, myself, you know, we didn't know what DEI stood for. And so fast forward to February of 2020, And our board of directors has adopted a new statement that we've added to our core values about inclusiveness, and that we are committed to honoring diversity and inclusion throughout our organization. And so we're very diverse. That part I think we've got down, but what is definitely more challenging is inclusion and equity. But I think that with any challenge, it's an opportunity for us to learn and to grow. And so I want at this point to ask you to be open and joining us in this important work and thinking about equity and inclusion in your classroom and as you're teaching, and thinking about the life experience that your students bring to the classroom and the value that your students bring to the classroom. And it's a very important topic to us. We could spend a whole session working on it, but I will say that if it's something that you're interested to talk further about, please feel free to reach out to me or any of our staff members, and we would love to chat further with you about it. And so then on the next slide, I want to just, whoops, you went too far. I want to just mention a few new initiatives and say that our core values, we always look at those when making decisions about activities to bring in or programs to change. And so particularly access and inclusive have been important as we consider these new initiatives. Removing barriers has always been part of our mission and our work. And in the COVID environment, the barriers have increased. Many of you were very, very generous. Last spring, we set up a student relief fund, and many of you generously donated to that. We were able to distribute about $13,000 in financial assistance to our students. And that has opened the door for us to participate in a larger scale with emergency financial aid. And so we have access up to $160,000 for rent and utility assistance. Letty Bustamante is overseeing this program. If you are aware of anybody that might need assistance, please be sure to connect with your adult program manager or to Letty, and we will be happy to connect them to these resources. And this funding, I will mention, it is coming from United Way, the City of Dallas, and Preston Hollow Presbyterian Church. So we're really grateful for that support to be able to help families out during this time. We're also providing laptops and hotspots as needed to anybody that needs one. We want to make sure that people can continue to connect with us. And my last slide is, well, it's September, and that means all your favorite nonprofits are probably talking about North Texas Giving Day, and that includes us at Literacy Achieves. So it is coming up. It is on September 17th. However, you can pre-schedule a gift between now and September 16. And this event, this is really one of our most important fundraisers of the year, and every dollar makes a difference. So whether it's even a small amount, we really appreciate all the gifts. I also would say that if you would like to become an ambassador and help us get the word out, either through a yard sign, email, social media, we would be happy to hook you up with materials that you need to be an ambassador, and you can contact Ego, and her email is there. It's eegby@literacyachieves.org, and tell her that you're interested to learn more or you would like to be an ambassador. So those are all of my comments. As always, I am tremendously thankful for all of you. Our staff has a great program planned today, and we look forward to working with you. So I'm going to turn it over to Ashley. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can see me okay. We are going to transition to the next part of our kickoff, which is our volunteer panel. So we have several volunteers, and I'm going to try and figure out how to make sure they're unmuted. And let's see. I'm going to ask everybody to unmute. And then we will go and have everybody introduce themselves. Oops. Sorry, Sarah, I didn't mean to unmute you. Let's see. Pat, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. Okay, so let me pull up my questions real quick. So we have a couple of questions, or several questions that we wanted to ask everyone. Can everybody see the panelists okay? Just give me a thumbs up, or hopefully everyone, or type yes in the chat. Sorry, this is a new thing for me, so hopefully everyone can see our panelists.
Ashley, I think if people go to gallery view over speaker view, they will enjoy it better.
Okay.
Up on the top
Gallery
right corner
view,
of your
yes.
screen, click on gallery view.
Okay.
To everybody.
I'm going to go ahead and get started. It looks like everyone is unmuted. So I'm going to have the panelists introduce themselves. If you could just go ahead and give your name, your home campus, and how long you've been teaching with Literacy Achieves. I'm going to go ahead and start with Joy. She's first on my list.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Joy Rumpf, and I am a community outreach nurse over at Texas Presby, so right around the corner from the Vickery Meadows campus where I teach. I have been teaching, I don't believe it's been quite a year, maybe, and I heard about the opportunity to volunteer as a teacher during the Healing Hands Ministries Health Fair last August. And there was a simple little brochure in everyone's bag, just asking if we would be interested or know anyone who would like to volunteer. So I was happy to do it, and it's so much fun. At first I was a little nervous, like, oh, I don't know about this, but I really enjoy it. So
Great.
Here I am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Mindy, can you introduce yourself with your name, home campus, and how long you've been teaching at Literacy Achieves?
Sure. My name's Mindy Fagan. Elm is my home campus. I've been teaching, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. Pat's my work husband. He'll probably remember when we first got together. And I'm a recovering lawyer, and this is the best thing I do. I love it, and I recommend it to everyone.
Great. Okay, Pat.
Good morning, everyone. I think this is the beginning of my 13th year to teach. It's either 12th or 13th. I started teaching at Vickery Meadows Learning Center when it was strictly that organization, and then I left there and came to Elm simply because Elm was closer to my house. Elm was a separate entity. Elm meaning English Language Ministry, which is part of the church where the campus is located. And then eventually that became part of Vickery Meadows, which then became Literacy Achieves. And that's my 12 or 13 years. Thank you.
Great. Peter.
Hi, good morning. My name is Peter Wilson. I've been with Literacy Achieves for just under a year. This will be my 3rd class that I am privileged to teach. I learned about Literacy Achieves from my wife, who had some experience with a coworker who had worked with the organization, and I researched it and realized it's something that I care a lot about, and had never really made time to get involved until this year. But I'm very grateful for this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to the thrilling challenges of a virtual classroom experience this fall.
Okay, Wendy.
Good morning. I'm Wendy Whaley, and I am at Vickery Meadows campus, and I've been teaching there, I think, about 5 years. Maybe I missed a year, I don't remember, but at least 5 years. And I heard about it actually when I was working at SMU, and I wanted to volunteer as a teacher because that's my background as an educator. And one of the employees mentioned Vickery Meadow, it was called something else, right? It was not Literacy Achieves. But I went to the kickoff at the church, at the synagogue, and I was just totally amazed at your mission and the program. So here I am, still doing it.
Great. And Rich.
So I am Rich Robinson, and I teach at Vickery Meadow, and I've done it for about 7 years. I've done all levels, and all the levels are fun to teach.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm going to transition to a quick poll real quick. This will kind of help us go into the next question about what your biggest challenges were heading into online teaching. So I'm going to poll the audience real quick and see what their biggest concern is. Hopefully everyone can see that. Give you a few seconds to answer. So hopefully you can see that on your screen if you can go ahead. There we go. Okay, I'll give it just a few more seconds. Okay, just a few more and hopefully we'll be able to see the results. Thank you for participating. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results. So I think just as we anticipated, one of the biggest concerns is technical difficulties with online tools and then keeping students motivated, engaged. Then we go to missed socialization and interaction. And then we go to my biggest fear. No, just kidding. I just don't look as good on Zoom as I do in person. And then we have a couple of others. So that will help us transition to our panelists. Can we go ahead? We'll start with Joy again, if you don't mind. What was your biggest concern with transitioning to online teaching?
You know, believe it or not, as a millennial, I am not really computer savvy. So that was one of my fears, as I'm like, I don't know if I can really do this. Like, I've never heard of Zoom until March. So I was just kind of like, oh, I hope that I could interact with the students, you know, as much as we interact face to face. So I think that was my biggest fear.
Mindy?
My biggest fear was that students wouldn't have the ability to get laptops and to have good connections and to understand how to implement the programs. Like Joy, I'm not hugely tech savvy, but I knew I'd be able to figure it out and have the resources, but I was very concerned about our students.
I'll just let someone else go. I don't have to call on you each time. So answer as you feel free.
This is Pat, and I'll be glad to contribute to that. I think probably using the program was a concern of mine. Would I be able to do it well enough to relate to the students? But that brings in the biggest concern I had is how can I relate to the students on a distancing teaching situation? And I found it very quickly I relate to them the same way I did with in-person teaching. So that part was great. I guess my biggest concern after we first started teaching was just to make sure I could adequately use the program and use it to its fullest extent, or at least as I understood it at the time, which was very minimal. So I encourage everyone to not worry about that. It will come.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on what Pat said, and one of my main concerns was how effective I'd be as a teacher covering the curriculum virtually during the summer session. And I consider myself a new teacher with limited experience as it is in the program. So my concerns were assuaged as soon as we got into class, and I realized that we're all sort of in this together, and a community of learners, so to speak, and the students were there just as motivated as I was. I mean, there to learn and me there to teach. So it all seemed to kind of work out, and we just figured out the technology as we went along, and had fun with it, and realized that this will probably be how we teach for the next few semesters, possibly. And so I think as long as everyone stayed pretty positive and upbeat about it, it was a much easier experience for all of us to work on together.
I agree with Peter. I think for me, my concern at first was that about active learning. Being in classroom, I have that capability of motivating and making sure that all of my students were actively engaged in learning in the classroom. But on a virtual basis, you can't go through the screen and, tap on their shoulder or, whatever, and encourage them. So my concern before going into the summer program is are they going to actually learn? And is it going to be fun for them that they'll come back the next day? Because, we only had 4 days to work on. So that was a challenge for me. Will I see them back on the second day, or did I scare them all away on the first day? Because we were all, all thumbs, because, the webinar, well, the GoToMeeting was different from Zoom. And it was kind of hard for me as well as for the students, because I had trouble, logging in, and there were some other issues, technologically speaking. And then the students had issues the first day. So it was kind of crazy the first day, but I felt that, LaTonya was on screen, and Ashley, you were on screen with me. So you all jumped in and helped the student who was making the computer was making strange noises, and, we just kind of yelled out help. And there you were. So second day was great. So it just, every day it got better and better. And I sort of missed not seeing them the following week. I wish I had signed up for more weeks. So yeah, so the summer session really did go well.
I was the same as everybody else. I was worried about using the technology, but it proved to be very easy to learn. I watched some videos, I practiced ahead of time, and it went very well. But I will say I'm happy we've changed to Zoom. Zoom I find to be easier to use than GoToMeeting.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. So in thinking, I think you kind of answered some of the strategies that you used to overcome those challenges. And we can go back to some of those if we have some time, but let's think about, what did you specifically do to keep your students motivated, engaged? I know that that's going to be a challenge, especially if we have students who, who have children who are learning, and trying to keep all of that balance. So what specifically did you do to help keep them going, to persist?
One of the things that I did was I tried not to do all the talking. I wanted to hear more what they had to say, and as much as possible, just try to act like we were in the classroom at Vickery Meadows. I know that's hard when you're sitting at home in your office, but just getting them more engaged versus me just talking and teaching.
What Pat and I did was we asked questions of our students about what kind of music they liked. And then we followed up that day, Pat and I, and found YouTube videos of either their favorite artist or their kind of music. And then over the course of the next few days, we would intersperse our lesson plans with those music videos. The technology didn't always work well, but now there's some new information that will help us play those music videos again. Also, I mean, we tended to use YouTube videos frequently for conjugations and things like that, and that seemed to work really well.
Yeah, my approach was a little simpler. It was just to remain positive and to reassure them that we were all in this together, and that in preparation. I mean, I think I was, like as I mentioned, still a little inexperienced with the program, and so I tried to make sure that I had a good enough agenda that covered the curriculum, but also allowed time to flex for technical difficulties or learning challenges or disruptions or, you know, things that we typically weren't or have not experienced in the classroom, you know, just allowing a little bit of extra time, and then including extra material if those issues did not take up all their time. So if we, you know, had the capacity then to do a little bit more work, but if not, then just to say, you know, hey, it was a good day, highlight successes, and kind of reprioritize things or plan for the next day. And I had a good co-teacher, by the way, and a more experienced one. So that was great to leverage for me anyway. Thanks, Lynn, if you're out there.
Now, I had the same too. I had a wonderful co-teacher who helped one times when I was struggling with getting to the Pearson page or the Wickery Meadow workbook page, you know, trying to do screen sharing. I would just kind of, instead of saying talk amongst yourselves, I had my co-teacher ask some questions. You know, they were kept busy while I was struggling with the page. So I think that kept them going. You know, they couldn't fall asleep or anything. But I think for me, it was important that I got to know my students, even though it was just 4 days. We took a personal interest. We asked them questions about, well, our topic, or we pretty much just stayed with the curriculum guide because it was family and topic. And I think we asked them questions about their family. They shared information. There was one student whose wife actually owns a wonderful African store. And we were all really interested and wanted to go and visit and go shop. And he was really excited to tell us about that. And so all of us started taking an interest. We became like one little family within 1 week, which was really exciting. So I think it's you know, showing, being humble, that, you know, as a teacher, we make mistakes and we're still struggling, and showing that personal interest in them. I think it helps them to stay committed to the classroom and to return.
I did not have any trouble getting the students motivated. They were totally motivated. The students are always motivated. And as for encouraging the students, I just use the same techniques that I use in the regular classroom for encouraging the students, telling them they're doing well, telling them I'm happy with what they're doing. And that all worked very well.
I would just add to what Mindy said. We talked together. We kind of go by what we call the 80-20 rule, is that we do 20% of the talking and the students do 80%. And that gets them engaged. And we do that via, well, some of the exercises in the textbook, and we'll have them do those orally rather than written, as you might do in class, in a real classroom. And we also, each semester, we go through the first class, we go through an introduction period where we introduce ourselves and have the students introduce themselves. At that point, we did a lot of what I think Wendy was saying. We asked them a lot of questions. We get to know them well, get to know something about their family, their country, where in their country they came from, what they're doing here, et cetera, et cetera. And it really warms them up. And I just don't have a problem relating to them after that. So it works well.
Yeah. Great, thank you. I know there's lots of technology resources that you can use to supplement your lessons. And in fact, I mean, it can be overwhelming. I resources than we can actually research and use. But what do you consider your best supplemental, I'm thinking supplemental besides your curriculum, that you used during the summer classes?
I found that YouTube was very resourceful for me.
Mhm.
Yeah, YouTube is what I would say, yeah.
I like doing the grammar rap. I'm really like, want to be a rap artist. So they think it's in class, when I would be face to face, I would really get into the rap with them. And they just think it's fantastic. So I just continued that fun activity with them, and that gets them stomping, clapping, and, doing their finger, whatever. But I think that's fun. And of course, YouTube that you all mentioned, I just searched YouTube, on everything related to the curriculum topic. And so when it was a family, I found some really cute, the ESL beginner, children's, but funny and fun songs. And we would sing along because the words would be on, the lyrics would be on there. And it gives them the practice that they need. And then I tell them that they can go back and look at it again, with the YouTube addresses.
Yeah, I didn't use anything. I just used the textbook and the workbook because these are prepared by professionals. They're very complete. You have all the information that you need, and you can work directly with the students about them. One thing that I do use is, this is my iPad, and there is an application called Duet. It costs $10, and you can use your iPad as a separate screen. And it's good to have two screens. That helps.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah, I'd like to highlight the ability to practice using Zoom prior to class to help you understand how to move around in the application. So sharing screens or muting or just using the core functionality of the software. I thought that was helpful. And then the ability to audit a class. So during summer session, as has been indicated, we each took a week to teach, and I did not have the first week. So I sat through some of the first week classes to see what was working, what wasn't, get to know the students a little bit better, things like that. So I would encourage, if that's going to be available to us, any other teachers to maybe sit in on other classes just to see how things are going, to continue to get to learn more about your students, and then just kind of understand what functionality works better for some people or others. It's good for just having new ideas to use for your own teaching.
Yes, absolutely. You'll be able to audit.
If you go to the Zoom website, at the Zoom website, they have lots of really good videos on how to use the product.
I was going to say, Pat and I taught 1A and 1B, they're pretty low levels, the very first week. So if you're worried about your technological difficulties, if our first day lesson is available, you will see that there were plenty of technological difficulties, but we all survived.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Any other thoughts about, seems like just keeping it simple is probably the best way to go. So what, in thinking about how you did during the summer, what are some of the things that you're looking forward to most about the fall?
I'm looking forward to meeting my new students because it will be a new batch, I think, because I'm teaching the very beginning, and that's always a challenge, and I love challenges. So I am preparing, using lots of visuals. When you're learning a language, they need the pictures, and I do a lot of gestures. I like to act. So we're going to do a lot of miming, a lot of guess who type things, and lots of fun and a lot of interesting games with them.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to using the breakout rooms. because I'll be doing level 2 this time. I don't think breakout rooms work very well for level 1, but for level 2, 3, 4, they should work very well. I think they're going to be very helpful.
I'm looking forward to using the chalkboard feature. I think that'll be a really nice feature to have access to, and I'm looking forward to hearing out how all of our students are doing. We had, Pat and I had one student who had COVID this summer, so we were pretty worried about her, but she's doing well, so I'm looking forward to seeing our students.
Looking forward just to seeing students again. And I'm also very excited about using Zoom. One reason is I've learned a lot more about it. So I think I can be much more effective as a teacher this fall. And so I'm excited about being able to use Zoom better, or to use Zoom, period, and to see students, although I'm sure some of them we'll have had before, but it's always great to see students, the old students and new students both. So I'm really looking forward to a couple of weeks from now.
I think one of the things that I am most looking forward to is I'm teaching a new class, so it'll be, you know, fun and new for not only myself, but the class, and just seeing faces again. And hopefully, you know, soon after this semester, we'll be face to face. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also taking on the challenge of a different class and curriculum, and but just excited to be back teaching and you know, getting the students comfortable with technology and sort of helping continue to foster that community of learners environment that this program is all about. But I mean, the technology is going to be great. I mean, since our society and everything, you know, relies so heavily on technology these days. This will, I think, advance their skill set much quicker than just having a computer lab, you know, once every week or something in the former environment.
Great. I will add too, if any of the audience members have a question for our panelists, you can add that in the question and answer control, or the chat control. I can look at that as well. So any other questions? I think we have a lot of technical questions, many of which we'll be answering after the keynote speech. So I think the last question that I had, unless we have some from the audience, is, in just a few words, share some encouragement with your fellow teachers who might be trying this for the first time.
I would say have grace with yourself, be patient, and still just give it your all as if you were in the regular classroom, and still have fun.
Now, I'll say it will be fun. Just like in the regular classroom, it's fun on Zoom. The students want to learn, we want to teach, everybody works together, and we do get to know each other, and it really is fun.
Yeah, I think if we have the positive mental attitude about this, because, you know, to many of us, you know, it's a new experience to teach online. I mean, I have done hybrid classes, so I know that online is great, but then we also get to meet in person, as my students and I would do. And that's, of course, to me, the best scenario. But I think in this particular case, the students will really need our support, our you know, level of confidence in them, and to support them in every way, in any way we can. But also we need to show our appreciation to them, that here they're willing to learn, to be part of this community of learners. But it's also important that we as teachers are also become learners, that we're not just teaching direct instruction, that we also learn from them and find out what they need, and try to tailor it, if you can, you know, to their specific needs and whatever they're not comfortable with. And but I do agree with you that it should be fun, because I always believe that teaching is fun, and that's why I'm in it. And not to be frustrated, to persevere, to be patient, and lastly, to practice, because practice does make some close to perfect.
I'll show you something wonderfully encouraging. I don't know if you can see this, but while we have been at this seminar just now, or this webinar, the student that had COVID just texted Pat and I and all of the other students a picture of her at a wedding. So Pat and I always exchange text numbers with our students, and then we do text exchanges so that we can give them lesson plans and things like that, and just check in and see how they're doing. And if you can build that kind of rapport with your students, there's just nothing better. It's the best thing you can do for yourself and your students, is to feel engaged with them and let them feel engaged with you.
Great. Anybody?
Yeah, I'm sorry. The best encouragement I can give is it's going to be a lot of fun. It can be frustrating at times, but I think just learning something new is exciting to me, and I suspect it is for all of us. And of course, the biggest thrill for me is to get back with the students. And, you know, there will be issues that come up on our end as teachers and on students' ends, well, with the technology, but, you know, so what? We'll live through it, and it'll be great. And after the first couple of weeks, I suspect the technological problems will smooth out pretty quickly.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's been some great encouragement issued here, but yeah, I mean, we're all in this together, and just continue to keep that positive attitude with the students. That you know, like Wendy said, you know, we're all learning at the same time.
I am going to miss the wonderful snack time.
You can have a virtual snack time.
We can have a virtual snack time. There you go. That'll be great.
Great. Well, we just had a few questions in the chat, most of which were kind of some technical questions that I know we'll be covering later. So I'll make sure to address those. But thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you participating in this, and for going through the pilot, for being the guinea pigs. And I mean, came out better because of it. So we're looking forward to starting again in the fall, and we'll see you guys on the 14th of September. So I know we're ending this just a few minutes early. I'm sure that's not a bad thing for most of you. So I know Rosa is ready. So just bear with us as we make the transition to her keynote. So thanks again. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm not sure, I might have to demote some of our panelists, but to an attendee, I'm not exactly sure how to do that. I might stop your video if that's okay. So if you see that, just bear with me. Okay, great. Share my screen. Rosa, are you going to share your slides, or did you want me to? I think we're kind of having a few issues with the presenter sharing. So if you don't mind, I can share your screen. Okay, perfect. Can you see that?
Yes, the only thing, there's like one slight change in the Kahoot.
Okay.
But well, I can maybe share my screen when the time comes.
Okay, perfect. So let me go ahead and introduce you. This is Rosa Guzman Snyder, and she is the Director of Community Development at National Center for Families Learning. And we have a bio here for her, but she has been at NCFL for I don't know, how long have you been there?
2 years.
Okay, great. And she's got a Master of Public Administration from the University of Texas at Arlington, so just down the road. Even though you're now, are you in Louisville? NCFL is in Louisville. But just down the road from us, so you do have some Texas roots, for which we are very thankful for. And do you have spare time these days, or do you still enjoy playing the guitar and cooking and?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely now with COVID, I do enjoy both of those things.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ashley, and thank you to the group. It is a great honor and privilege to share with you today something that is very relevant for our time, and also just you know, I just want to share with you all that as I was prepping for this presentation, I was learning alongside, because I think that we're all kind of adjusting and learning all of this new technology. We're all trying to figure out what some of the promising and best practices are of how we do our work. So it's been a little bit of an adjustment, right, for a lot of folks. I just want to share with you all really quick for our time together what what is on the agenda. I'm just going to do a quick introduction, talk a little bit about touchstones of your online community, what that looks like, the shifts that we've made to online communities, roles, and then some tools that hopefully will support you as you kind of make that switch to a virtual setting. But before we do that, I just want to share a little bit about me. And you know, Ashley did mention a little bit of the, you know, the more technical, or I guess the more bio type of things. But this is my family. I am a mom of 2 children. Thomas and Eliana. Thomas is just started 3rd grade, and Eliana just started 2nd grade here in Louisville, Kentucky, all online, you know, NTI, non-traditional instruction. And as Ashley mentioned, I do have some Texas roots. I was born in El Paso, Texas, and I lived there till I was about 7, and then our family moved to Denver, Colorado. But I have family in Dallas. My grandfather still lives in Dallas. And so it's always a pleasure to be out there. And I always feel so much at home when I'm able to travel to Dallas. So yeah, Director of Community Development, originally from El Paso, moved to Denver, and now living in Louisville, Kentucky. So that's just a little bit about me. One of the things that I'm going to be doing as we go through this process is modeling some tools to building online community. And the way that I'll model that is by asking you all to participate in that process. And so real quickly, in your chat box, if you can tell us just these 3 things, just write a 3-sentence story. What you're going to do is tell us where you're calling in from. So if all of you are from Dallas, maybe you want to share a particular room that you're in. Currently, I'm in a makeshift office space that I've created in my basement, which the lighting is horrible because I have wood paneling. I live in a very old home here in Louisville, Kentucky. So I'm in my basement that I've kind of created into the office. One object of significance on your desk or in the room. What is it? Where did it come from? And why is it important to you? So you're going to write that as part of your sentence. And then where you're from, or where you're calling in from, where you're calling in from, and then also an item in your space that you want to share about. So I'll just share real quickly. This is a picture frame that my son Thomas made for me Mother's Day 2 years ago, right before I went on the interview for this current job at NCFL. And so this is a little Mother's Day gift that he made me, and I always just kind of keep it around just as a reminder that he's kind of why I do the work that I do. So let's read what some of the folks are saying. So Gigi from North Dallas, Crystal Swedish vase from her grandmother. Ashley, is there any opportunity for maybe picking one or two folks to share out, or is that not a possibility?
I think so. I will try and figure that out.
Okay, just like maybe one or two folks
Okay.
that might want to share. And maybe can
Ask Tanya to talk.
Oh, Tanya? Okay,
We'll test her out.
all right, Tanya.
Oh, can you hear me? What about now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, cool. Okay. Oh, you wanted me to?
Yeah, can you share just a little bit where you're calling from, and then what is the item on your desk that's significant?
Oh, okay. So I'm at the Vickery Meadow campus in North Dallas, and I have a little Barack Obama bobblehead doll, and he's got like a little surfboard, and he's riding the waves or whatever. And I brought it from my house and put it on my desk just as a little inspiration. And now that we have moved to virtual learning, it has become even more of an inspiration because it's right here next to my computer. So as I'm working, I can see it, in my peripheral, and it just reminds me that yes, we can do this. So.
Thank you so much for sharing, Tanya. I'm seeing additional folks who are chiming in. I would love to be able to hear some of Susan's playing, piano playing that she has in her office. I too have not a piano, but a keyboard down here. I don't play, but my husband does. Let me see, who else is anything interesting coming out? Obviously, all of them are interesting. Ashley, do you want to pick one more person to maybe share out loud?
Let's see. And Dasha, can you hear me? Can you share?
Hello.
Yes.
I'm in Dallas, Texas right now, and then an important object on my very messy desk is just a journal that contains what I'm supposed to do for my degree plan, my passwords, and also just other things that I need to remember and goals.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. So just want to share with you all really quick, this is a great activity to do when you can actually see folks, and people can bring their objects and show them through video. So, we do this work a lot in person settings. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll create like a community. I don't necessarily like to call it a community altar space, but almost like a community display, right? In classrooms of something important that folks can bring, and kind of an extension of themselves or a representation of themselves. But you can still do those things through Zoom, and just bringing something, a small little something that can help you connect to a certain person and can kind of help build that community. So that is just like a little bit of an icebreaker that you can do. It can even turn into a full-on lesson later, but it is a way to kind of connect folks. So I just want to share with you all some, and I know these are kind of hard to read, but some of the touchstones that I really love when I'm presenting at any place is looking at these circle of trust touchstones. And I love them just not just for community development settings, but also for folks that are working in the adult ed space or early childhood space. So what I want you all to do is just maybe take a minute or two to read through them. And if there is one of them that really catches your eye and that really resonates with you, feel free to add that in the chat box. Or if there's maybe others that you want to kind of think about, or that you want to add. I know sometimes like we do like rules of engagement anytime we are facilitating a group, but I love like this framework of touchstones rather than like even norms or agreements, but just ways of kind of engaging with the group. So someone said that they're a little bit too blurry, so I'll just read them really quick. The first one is give and receive, welcome, be present as fully as possible. What is offered in the circle is by invitation, not by demand. Speak your truth in ways that respect other people's truth. No fixing, saving, advising, or correcting. This one always gets to me. I'm just going to read the description of it. It says, this one's one of the hardest guidelines for those of us who just like to help, but it is vital to welcoming the soul, to making space for the inner teacher. Another one is learn to respond to others with honest, open questions. When the going gets rough, turn to wonder. Trust and learn from the silence. Boy, that one's hard for me. I really struggle with kind of like that dead space, a white space sometimes of when folks aren't engaging with me, especially like in these, in this mode of Zoom. So much of kind of the way that I feed my soul and my energy is by looking at others and looking and seeing facial expressions. So even right now, it's hard for me. I feel like I need to fill that space, but knowing to be comfortable with the silence, attend to your own inner teacher, observe deep confidentiality, and the last one, I think it went off for a second, but know what is possible. So just really quickly, if any of these call to you, oh, thank you so much, Ashley. If any of these call to you or speak to you, let us know which ones in the chat box. I'd love to hear. And yes, we will definitely make these slides available for folks, including these touchstones. All right. So just give you all a minute. If you all want to write something in the chat box, any of them that really resonate with you. Or maybe an aha moment. Trust and learn from silence, no fixing, need to remember that. I love the absence of demands. Oh, does no fixing, saving or correcting mean we are not to correct speech errors? No, I think that's a little bit different in terms of like an ESL class. I think that's more like even in the areas of parenting or when you're facilitating, how we deal with folks and knowing that everyone kind of comes from different contexts, different experiences, and ours isn't always the only experience. So maybe not necessarily for an ESL setting, but that was a great question. When the going gets rough, turn to wonder. Yeah. So just when I see reactions, is this something, I don't know if we can look at the reactions on folks, but do you all feel like this is something that you all can use in your classrooms and just reminders of kind of how we engage with folks in looking at these touchstones? And the hope is that these are just reminders that we can look at and we can use. And like I mentioned, we'll be able to send these out through email later. So we're going to go ahead and move forward. And I'm guessing many of these things have already been talked about as you're looking and navigating facilitation, and teaching through Zoom. But two things I want you all to think about when we're talking about specifically building community in online settings. There are two key elements that we think about and how we build community. The first is interactivity, and that's that sense of participation, right? The dialogue, the reciprocal dialogue that happens. And this could happen either with from student to student, from the instructor to the student, or even the content to student. There are ways that we can make that work happen, whether through discussion boards, small groups, chats, or even breakout rooms. Those are the ways that we really foster that interactivity. The other way that we really use at building community in online settings is the idea of trust, right? And this goes along with even just if you were doing in-person, trust. We're looking at ensuring that folks feel like they're having a positive experience in this setting and through this medium, that there are opportunities for people to share. There are opportunities for folks to even be vulnerable, even with vulnerabilities with how they're answering, or vulnerable and you know what, I don't know how to navigate this space. I don't know how to I don't know the difference between the chat box and, you know, the Q&A or whatever, like allowing that trust and that space for folks to say, okay, it's okay to say that I don't know. So think about these two things, the interactivity and the trust. Those are two key elements of ensuring that you're able to build community in an online setting. So just a couple things before we move forward is ensuring that folks know that they can turn, I mean, a lot of times, I don't know if you all have already talked about this or established norms, but I know personally, I love to have my camera on, but sometimes I don't. Like, say I'm gonna take a quick drink of water, or my kid comes in the background and, you know, she's a hot mess or whatever. I like that option of being able to turn off my camera, right? So even just setting those norms ahead of time, saying, you know, we'd love to see your face, but we also understand that there are times that you need to put those boundaries, and that's okay. You know, teaching folks how to mute themselves, how to unmute themselves. I swear the 2020 phrase is you're on mute. I feel like at every single meeting I hear you're on mute at least one or two times. So, you know, just making sure that folks know how to do that, know how to use a chat box, and then most of all, that norm of establishing and extending grace. To me, this is probably the most important one in the time of just so much uncertainty and so much chaos in our world. Extending folks that grace and saying, you know what, I'm gonna turn on my video and I want to engage in the lesson, but I'm gonna turn on the Zoom, but I might have to turn off my video right now, or my baby's gonna come in the background and you know, I might need to breastfeed for a little bit. All of these things are ways that we can extend grace to folks and say, you know what, that's okay. You know, that's just the way it is right now, and we welcome that. Not only is it okay, but we welcome kind of this new era of almost, I want to say, messiness, right? We do our best to kind of keep things structured, but we also plan for flexibility. So, you know, just making sure that you're establishing those norms for your online community. What I want to think about right now is in the chat box, I want you to answer, and maybe we'll start with the first question. What do you feel participants are longing for during the times of online learning? Think about your student, put yourself in their shoes. What are they longing for? What do they wish during this time? If there's anybody that can just answer that in the chat box, that would be great. One of the things, and I'll share this with you, that I long for, okay, connection and acknowledgement. Thank you, Kathy. Absolutely. Connection and acknowledgement, social interaction, thank you. Absolutely. One of the things I really miss that I don't feel like we get in during Zoom, I don't know if you all are, if this happens in your classrooms, but oftentimes after class, there's always like a little bit of like conversation and socialization that happens, a time for folks to connect with each other, right? And to me, not having that has been so, I almost feel like it's so devastating to the richness of programming, right? What really, you know, there's the academic side of programs and the great work that they do, but there's also the sense of building community and connections that folks receive when they're in person. And so oftentimes we see that folks are longing for that for that connection. I'm going to read some of these other ones. Connectivity with other learners, teachers, absolutely. One-on-one help if needed. Connecting to students, making sure they're engaged and not bored. Keeping up the energy online, which is hard for 2 hours. Yes, amen, Catherine. It is hard. It is hard. Personal eye-to-eye welcoming. Yes. It's so hard to me, like when people come on Zoom, it's so hard for me to like really show my excitement of, oh my gosh, it's so good to see you, even if it's through Zoom, right? And sometimes I feel like people don't really grasp how good it is to see other folks. Test, okay, maybe participants are longing for tests during times of online learning. You must have some really great students that long for that. But yes, active learning and discovering learning online can be fun. Okay, so, or maybe the one for test was, what is the greatest challenge you face in shifting to online facilitation and learning? So we'll move to that question. What do you all feel is the greatest challenge that you face currently? In terms of like how you build community and forge and foster those connections with students. What is the greatest challenge that you face? And one of the things that I would imagine being our competing priorities, right? Folks are struggling right now. They're struggling to literally stay alive in some cases, right? Ensuring that that they're healthy and safe. But you know, that to me is probably the greatest challenge, is competing priorities. Like when you have, you know, your children that might have COVID, or even yourself, obviously maybe your programming or online school might not be a priority at the time. So that to me becomes one of the greatest challenges. Fostering a sense of community is the greatest challenge, yes. Potlucks and break time, amen. Like one of the things that I really miss about programming, in-person programming, is eating together. To me, when you break bread together, there's a special connection that happens. Managing school for my kids while trying to meet my own needs, yes, absolutely. Group work and presentations by students, absolutely. Those are things that are definitely big challenges, especially when you're thinking about group work and managing the technical side, right? Ensuring that families know how to do their presentations online. So these are all challenges that come up. One of the things that I want to just kind of shift to is, okay, what are some ways that we can mitigate that, especially around the areas of community, building community? What are some ways that we can mitigate some of those big challenges? And I'm going to go into this idea of assigning roles, ensuring that at every facilitation or every meeting that you all have, that there are clear roles and families and participants can know that there's somebody else counting on them. Very similar to the classroom, right? Where you have folks that are kind of maybe tasked with keeping attendance, tasked with different, maybe doing the welcome or whatever that looks like. One of the biggest things that you can do is foster a sense where folks know that others are depending on them, and they are depending on others. Obviously, we don't want it to be a high pressure thing where, you know, if they can't show up because of something, it all falls apart. But that is one of the ways that we want to see fostering that relationship building, is that you know that somebody is counting on me to be there. So some of the roles that you can assign in your group, you want to make sure you always have a chat moderator, right? Somebody that, as you're facilitating, can say, excuse me, I want to just read some chats that came in to make sure that the instructor knows kind of what the questions are, right? Making sure you have a chat or even a Q&A moderator that can read some of those and be okay with interrupting the teacher. Because I know that when you're facilitating a lesson, it becomes very hard to do both things, to facilitate and speak, and then also moderate your chat box. You want to have a timekeeper, and these are all traditional roles for the classroom, but it's really a great way of keeping those in even within your online classroom. You want to have somebody that tracks attendance, right? You know, say maybe at 10 minutes after the class starts or 15 minutes after the class starts, this person is going to check attendance and then maybe snap a picture of it and send it to the teacher or something like that. Put those roles on your students, right? Don't try to be, as a facilitator, don't try to be the person that does all of these things. Make a person an encourager. Like, you know, if you haven't heard from somebody through the chat box, if you haven't heard somebody participate or even do the reactions, maybe that encourager can say, hey, we haven't heard from so-and-so. We'd love to hear from you. Or that's great. Thank you for sharing. Whatever that encourager role can look like. And then I want to ask you all can share that in the chat. What are other roles that you might be able to have for your online community? Can anybody write any of these in the chat? What other roles do you see? Or are there any of these that really call to you and say, oh, this is really going to help me? I'll give you about 30 seconds to write some of those out. Any chats? Any of these roles in your online community that really call to you that you could really use, or are there any of them that you feel like we can add? Oh, translator. Yes, that's a great one. The encourager role really stands out to you. Good deal. Having someone who will always answer first to get things going. That's a great one, Ashley. Thank you. One for technology and the other one for learning and participating. There, thank you, Sarah. 2 types of encouragers. Yes, absolutely. So just ensuring that you have, that folks, again, feel that sense of interactivity, right? Student to student, instructor to student, content to student. Thinking about interactivity. That is a way that you build an online community. Ensuring that folks feel like they're depending on you. You know, they want you there. You have a special job to do, even if it's through Zoom. All right, well, one of the things that I want to share with you really quick, and I will actually share this part of the screen. I came across Kahoot. Have any of you all used Kahoot before? And I can't see folks. Yes, no, okay. So Kahoot is a really fun interactive game that you can do to share with your class, and you could create any sort of quiz. So I am going to actually share my screen here. Can you all see this? You all can go to kahoot.it, and you're going to enter this PIN number, and we're going to do a quick Kahoot game. And the Kahoot game that we're going to do today is about current events, and they're like current events. But I want you all, if you can, to start joining the Kahoot. You can either do it on your phone or you can do it on your computer. You can minimize your screen, your Zoom screen. Okay, we've got 2 players joining so far. You don't have to put your real name. So you're going to put this PIN number. You're going to go to kahoot.it. Can everyone see the screen? Let me see really quick. Making sure you all can see it. Here we go. I'm going to give us some time to do this. This is a really fun way. So you can be on Zoom and be on Kahoot, or you can be on Zoom. So it's not like folks have to get off their phones if they're doing this through their phone. All right. Can we get a few more folks to join this fun game of Kahoot? But give it another minute or so. Making sure everyone has a chance. And are we ready? All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So we're going to do the news of the week. Okay, a 3,000-pound skull of which dinosaur was recently excavated from in South Dakota? So all you have to do is click on the one you want, or the one that you think. Triceratops, T-Rex, Velociraptor, or Stegosaurus. You only have about 20 seconds to answer. So the correct answer was Triceratops. Let's go to the next one. Right now, ND is leading the way. So it's also as quickly as you can answer them. You want to answer as quickly as possible. Here we go. Next one. The glass, you all could read these. All right, let's see who's in the lead now. Okay, still ND, followed by Cosmo and Sam. Okay, we only have 6 questions, so these are pretty quick. NASA astronaut Jeanette Epps will become the first Black woman to join an International Space Station crew. True or false? It is true. Okay, Cosmo is now leading. Okay, which legendary soccer player looks set to leave Barcelona after playing for the club since they were 13 years old? Ronaldo, Messi, Pogba, or Suarez? And the answer is Messi. Let's see where we are. Sam is now in the lead. And this is going to be our second to last question. The world's record for the longest session of karaoke sung by a duo is 25 hours. Actually, I think this is our last question. True or false? 25 hours of karaoke. Let's see where we are. And it is false. And here is why. Because it was previously the 25-hour, but now a South African duo broke the record by singing karaoke songs for 35 consecutive hours. A duo were aiming for 48 hours, but stopped at 35 due to exhaustion. So let's see who our winner is. Dun, 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 dun. Third place, WW. Who is this? Second place, ND. And first place is Sam. Congratulations. I would love to see, and I'm going to turn off my screen, who these folks are. Sam, WW, and ND. Who are these folks? Yay, Sam. Who else? Nadash, second place. Good job. ND and Wendy is, okay, wonderful. Congratulations. Good job. I don't have prizes. If I were in person, I would typically have something, but maybe that's something that you all can do is share out prizes for folks in the future. Yes. Oh, I wonder who is, okay. One of the questions we have here is, do you make up your own questions or are they preset? You absolutely can make up your own questions. So you can do that for, you know, for checking for understanding, checking for knowledge while you're doing a lesson. You absolutely can do that in a lesson. You don't have to use the ones that you have. You can create your own. But maybe this is a resource that you all can do, that you can use in the future. Kahoot is super fun. I always love doing it. I am going to just do maybe one more tool that I love using. This is called mapping our journeys. And for those of you all who have done NCFL training before, we use this as a community builder. We usually have big maps and we allow folks to kind of map their journey, where they're coming from, you know, what brought them to a certain place. And it typically ends up being a very like unifying activity because folks get to see just kind of how you connect with others, that we're all kind of really coming from similar places, or we all move for similar reasons. Typically it's because we want better for our families. Some of us move for love. Some of us move because we want to be around somebody that we love or take care of a family member. But I am going to model really quick how you can do this in an online setting. And I am going to use a North American map. Let me see here, and hopefully I can share my screen to make this work. Maybe not. Let me see. Can you all see that? Can you all see the North America map?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
So one of the cool things, and I'm just going to model really quick what you can do as a way to kind of build community. You can do a world map. You can do a North America map. You can do just a USA map. You can do a Dallas map. But there's this really great little feature on Zoom, and it's to annotate. So I'm just going to go through my journey really quick to show you all. So my journey started in El Paso. Let me do a different color here, if I can. Maybe not. Okay. My journey started in El Paso, Texas, because that is where I was born. before that, my parents were, actually, I'll go back just a second. My dad was from Coahuila in Mexico, and my mom from Aguascalientes, and then they eventually ended up in El Paso. We lived in El Paso till I was 7, and then I moved to Denver. When I went to college, I really recognized the need for me to connect deeper with my culture and my roots, and so I decided to go to Mexico and spend some time in Mexico, in San Luis Potosí, which isn't on this map, but it's central Mexico. So I lived in San Luis Potosí for about 4 years. And after that, I decided that, that it was time for me to kind of settle down. I had a boyfriend at the time who is now my husband, and he was pastoring a church in Pueblo, Colorado, which is about 2 hours south of Denver. So I ended up going to Pueblo, just a little bit south of Denver. And then once we started having a family and started having kids, I said, you know what, I really need to be close to my folks with my parents. So we ended up going back to Denver, and we lived there for about 5 years. And then 2 years ago, I went to go work at the National Center for Families Learning, and I made this big move. Probably, I feel like it's the biggest move culturally that I've ever made. And it's not on here, but to Louisville, Kentucky. I think that's where I'm at. Anyway, that is my story. And then what I would do is I would put my name on here. Can you all see that? This is something that you all can do with your programs. Even though you're not in person, there's definitely an opportunity for you to do that through Zoom. So the map I got just from the internet. You can do a share screen. Once you have a share screen, you can annotate using that tool. So everyone would have to be able to share their screen to make that happen. Then at the end, you would be able to see how everyone intersects. Everyone gets to see kind of what brings them to certain places. Is this a tool that you all feel like you can use? Maybe, hopefully. Yes, great. Wonderful. So the last thing we're gonna do is one of my favorite things that you can use to kind of build community when we're talking about interactivity. So the last one we did, the mapping your journey, that really falls into the space of trust, right? That is a trust activity to share where you're coming from, share your story in a way that feels authentic. So that is a trust activity. The last one we're gonna do, and Ashley, I don't know if you can, this is super simple. This is more of how folks interact with both the content and each other. So I am going to put up a poll. And the poll is super easy. This shouldn't be so hard. It is a dogs versus cats poll. And super easy. You just have a few seconds to respond. Dogs versus cats. Dogs or cats? Do you prefer dogs or do you prefer cats? We're about at 73, 75%, 80%. Give folks about 10 more seconds to vote. All right, and we're gonna end the poll. Here we go. 75% said cats, or excuse me, said dogs, and 25% said cats. In the chat box, what I want you to do is state your case of why either dogs are better or cats are better. Then we're gonna run our poll again. So just state your case in the chat. So I will start. I will state my case in the chat. Well, I'll read some of these. Cats can take care of themselves. Dogs are friendlier. Dogs love you no matter what. Cats don't need so much attention. Dogs are more affectionate. Dogs are more loving and force you to take them for walks. Family members have cat allergies, so always had dogs. Dogs show their love so well. Dogs are loyal. Cats are aloof. Let's see. I'm with Kathy. Dogs love you no matter what. Dogs are more fun. Cats are low maintenance. Dogs are friendly. Dogs give better kisses. More responsive, great walkers. Dogs actually pay attention to you. Cats are independent, not so needy. Cats are very smart and great personalities. My cat is very affectionate. Dogs are more social and connect to people. Cats shed. Yeah, that is true. Our cats think they are dogs. Oh my gosh. Dogs are more responsive. Dogs stink. Cats don't need to be let outside early in the morning. Dogs stay in the yard. Dogs will eat all your food leftovers. Neither are better. Fate has led me to cats now. I had a great dog until he passed. Oh, I'm so sorry, Felix. Great cats now. Dogs enjoy going on rides with you. Dog shed. I can't state a case because I love both. If I have to choose, it's Dogzo. All right, my case is, I'm just going to share with you all. Dogs are, they are used for speech therapy, social emotional therapy, and I love dogs. But I'm going to run the test again to see if any of your arguments made any changes. Dogs can protect you. All right, we're going to run it again, and you all get to vote. All right, 5 seconds. And we're gonna stop. It looks like that the dog camp convinced some, because we moved a little bit more from 75 to 25 to 78 to 22. So yay for the dogs who made good arguments here. Oh, still bell. All right. Anyway, these are just ways like folks can make their case and then run polls again. Again, ways to interact. These are great icebreakers that you all can be doing. I know we're running a little bit short on time, but I just want to say really quick, if there's, I don't know if we have a ton of time for questions, but if there are any questions, I would love to kind of open that space up for a few minutes. Somebody said, how does one know the answer prior to participating in Kahoot? You wouldn't know the answer. It ends up being kind of like a quiz. Although you can create your own quiz and have your own questions. All right, let's see. If three participants raised their hand. Ashley, do you want to help me out with that? I don't quite know if we can unmute the folks that did.
Sure. So we have a question we have a few raised hands. Chrissy?
Great. I love it.
Okay, that was great. Linda, did you have a question? Linda Humphreys?
Just wondering how to generate that pencil to draw on the map.
Great question. Yeah, so that comes up when you share your screen. There's a bar that comes out up on top, and there's like a stamp, text, and then one that says annotate. And you're going to want to click on that annotate button, and then you'll have the options of doing like a thick pencil, different colored pencil. And I didn't quite figure it out until after. There's a way to format that pencil. Oh,
All right, thank you.
yes, Christy said she was distracted by her dog. But Christy, did you have a question?
No, everything's good. I'm loving this.
Okay, good. Good deal. Anything else? I'm going to put up my contact information actually on the last slide. I'm happy to answer any questions afterwards. Like I mentioned before, I'm kind of in this space with everyone right now, just kind of learning how to navigate facilitating through Zoom. It's a new space, a new way of doing business. But I really trust that we can make it work. And as we're learning together, I can make sure that I can share some resources, additional resources with you all. Actually, I think the last slide is just like my contact information. There we go. You all can email me. Sarah and Ashley have the slide deck that we're happy to, I'm sure they'll be happy to share that with you. And how do we co-teach on Zoom?
Great. Thank you so much. I know there's a lot of questions that are coming in that are some of the more technical aspects. And so we'll go into that during our next presentation. But thank you, Rosa. It was a joy seeing you and hearing from you. And I think you just gave us some wonderful tips and tricks for really establishing that community. I think I told Sarah that your presentation was more of like the feel part of connecting and establishing community. And the next one will be more of the left side of the brain, the thinking portion. And so it's great to have that balance. So we really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for having me. I'm going to just step out and thank you all again. Great.
So the next thing that we have on the agenda is a break. I know I can use a few minutes of a break. The presentation that I have starts at 12:50, and that's 6 minutes from now. So if you can, just take a quick 6-minute break, and we'll be back with you in just a few minutes. Thank you.
ganorin nino ne kozot bargorin nino 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 na sarcheche jest to chudem jares kefi meche ach nino nino na sarcheche jest to chudem nino kefi meche ari khalam karkadik nino didam kazir tradik nino ari khalam karkadik nino didam kazir tradik nino ach nino nino na sarcheche jest to chudem jares kefi meche ach nino nino na sarcheche jest to chudem nino kefi meche nino 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 alla chiasi pesce nino bacchi mi ariste scende nino alla chiasi pesce nino bacchi mi ariste scende nino ach nino nino na sarcheche jest to chudem jares kefi meche ach nino nino na sarcheche jest to chudem nino kefi meche nino 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 kakati kanari 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 nino 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 na sarcheche nino nino kefi meche nino nino na sarcheche nino 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 no.
Sorry, I was muted. That's again, the biggest problem that we all have is being muted. So we are back. It is now 12:50, and I want to go ahead and get started because I know we had some volunteers who couldn't make the main portion of the presentation and that can only attend the breakouts. You should have received an email, but when I close out this presentation, I'll put the links in the chat for your breakout session. So we'll have Tanya is going to be leading basic 1A and 1B. Jody is going to be leading a breakout for levels 1C and 2. And then Laura will be leading our breakout for levels 3 and 4. And so as soon as I'm finished, I'll put those links in the chat in case you did not get the email that I sent this morning with those links. So we have to close out the webinar and go into a new, the webinar just doesn't allow for breakouts. So that's why we're doing it this way. So hopefully I'll stay on for a few minutes in case anybody has any issues going to the breakouts. But quickly, just want to go through mastering the digital classroom. This is a pretty long presentation, so I'm going to send it to you. We only have 10 minutes right now to go over some of these things, but I wanted to make sure you have a pretty comprehensive document to go over what you need to know. So where is my classroom? Well, if you're like me, you're kind of having an existential crisis. You know, where's my classroom? What am I doing? Where am I going? Why am I even here? You're going to Zoom. It's going to be pretty easy to find your classroom. So don't have a crisis. Don't worry about it. We're here to help you figure out where you are. I shared this in our Getting to Know Zoom presentation, but if you're like me, another Zoom meeting? Yes. We can do this. Your students need you. It's another Zoom meeting, but it's going to be great. So lots of questions about logging in. I know it's a little bit confusing, but we'll walk you through it. There is a host login for each of the classes. So there's a host login for basic, a host login for 1A. There are a couple of host logins for 1B because we have more students than can accommodate one single class. So we're spreading them out, trying to keep you with students from your campus. It's a lot like spinning plates, trying to keep all those up in the air, but we're doing our very best to keep you with your same students. There are a couple of host logins for 1C, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to make sure that you have access to all of that information. We're typing it out and making sure that all the settings are correct. So you'll have the same link and the same login for each day of class. It's not going to change each day. You have here where you can log into Zoom. Hope that's pretty self-explanatory if you attended the Getting to Know Zoom. If not, we'll have these slides sent to each of you. I'm happy to go through this one-on-one. Just give me a call, send me an email, and I'll go over all of this information one-on-one with you. There is a link to all the login information. So we've got it uploaded. If you just click on the link, you can see it. I'm not sure if you can see my screen because of sharing issues, but there is a document that looks kind of like this that has got all the login information. Your username will correspond with the email accounts that we've established for the tablets that you have in your traditional classrooms. So we just decided to keep these email addresses that we already had going, but it's a Gmail, and each of the hosts will log in using that. This is just an example, so don't use these credentials. You'll have one that's unique to your classroom. When you log into Zoom, you'll click Start Meeting. You have to hover over it to get those controls to show. So if you don't see it when you log in, just hover over the meeting link there and you'll see it. What you need to do for your classroom, if you have a co-teacher, one of you needs to log in as the host using the login credentials that you'll have. So maybe the person who's a little bit more tech savvy, you'll want to have that person log in as the host. And once the meeting begins, the host teacher can make the co-host, the co-teacher a co-host. So that's a lot of verbiage. So if you have the host login, you can make your co-teacher a co-host. The co-host teacher does not need to pay for a login. You can use a free basic account. As long as the host starts the meeting, you don't have to worry about time limits, and then they can make you the co-host. We have Tanya's beautiful face here showing you that when you have logged in and started the meeting, if you hover over the co-host, you can make them a co-host. And again, you can log in early. You can log in at any time using these links so that you can practice this, making a co-host. And I'm sorry I'm going through this quickly. It's just we don't have a lot of time at this point. And again, call me if you have any questions. We'll go over this one-on-one. Have a link here if you want to join a test meeting. Again, you'll have a link to all the login credentials that you can use for your actual classroom. But if you right now want to go and do a test meeting, there's a link here that you can use. This next couple of slides go into more detail about what we did, what we presented during the Getting to Know Zoom presentation. And what I did is I took that presentation and I made sure that I had connected specific links. So for the security icon, if you click on the link that's in the presentation, which you'll receive, it'll take you directly to a video covering all the controls that you'll see. So you'll see that from sharing your screen. There's a lot of information about sharing screen and how you can share sound with it as well. So I made sure to include links to all of those videos and support articles in Zoom. Same for polling. Sending files in the chat. So we'll have that setting enabled for you that you can, if you have a Word document or a PDF or a picture, you can send those files through the chat. There's, again, a link to an article and a video that you can watch as well. So the same thing for each of these. We went into detail about sharing your screen. There are multiple articles and videos that you can watch on sharing your screen. If you want to share a video, make sure that these buttons are clicked. Share computer sound, optimize screen sharing for a video clip. That way your students can hear whatever it is that you're presenting. Here's also a link that you have the ability to use a whiteboard. And so again, I've linked to an article for you and a video that you can watch in order to access that. Breakout rooms is the same thing. Again, you can put your students in separate rooms if you want them to chat one-on-one with each other over an assignment that you have. And again, not to repeat myself, but to repeat myself, there's an article that you can access there as well. Last but not least, here is some contact information. Please do not hesitate to call us. Do not hesitate to email us. We will go over all of these features one-on-one. We'll hop in a Zoom meeting with you and show you exactly what it is that you need to do. So we have from now until the 14th to practice. Even if you want to stop by in person, all of our program managers have office hours that we can share with you as well. So unfortunately, that was